Welcome back to Movies TV Mad. You can follow me on Twitter at Movies TV Mad, and welcome to Wednesday's show. Don't forget, if you're watching the live premiere, I'm watching it alongside you. If you comment, I will react to your comment. If you have a question, I will answer that question. So welcome to Wednesday's show, and on today's very exciting show, very shortly, I respond to the rumour from Giant Freaking Robot that the Flash movie director Andy Muschietti will be directing a Justice League 2. Yes, a Justice League sequel, and I'll be talking about the validity of these reports. Then we discuss and look at an article from Screen Rant where they're talking about the Flash movie prequel comic, Volume 1 of The Fastest Man Alive, where they talk about a spoiler from the movie. We'll get into that as well, and then we'll be updating you with some Joker sequel, very exciting casting news. But first, let's talk about Giant Freaking Robot's rumour, and it's in an article. We'll be getting into that article very shortly. That Andy Muschietti, the Flash movie director, will be directing a Justice League sequel. I have no doubt when Walter Hamada was in charge of DC Films, Andy Muschietti would have been tapped to continue his role in the brand new DC Extended Universe timeline and direct a Justice League sequel. Here's the thing, Walter Hamada is no longer the president of DC Film, so Andy Muschietti, in my mind, will not be directing a Justice League sequel. Like every lie or every piece of misinformation, there has to be a little bit, an element of truth in it. And the truth of the matter is, yes, Andy Muschietti, under the Walter Hamada multiverse strategy, would have directed a Justice League sequel. That's not going to happen anymore. Now, this piece of journalism, using the word journalism loosely, inspired me to do a list of who I thought would be in Andy Muschietti's Justice League sequel, Justice League. So who would be the Justice League members? So this is my list. Remember, I wrote this when I was starving, before I had my Nescafe and before I had my breakfast, but this is who I think would have been the Justice League members. Michael Keaton's Batman, if they didn't kill him off in the Batgirl movie, because we'll never know. So we would have had Leslie Grace's Batgirl, Sasha Calle's Supergirl, we would have had Sholo's Blue Beetle, Ezra Miller's The Flash, Jason Momoa's Aquaman, Zachary Levi's Shazam, Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman, and I've got a bit of one that I'm not sure about, but I think this could have been a surprise for us. Maybe Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson's Black Adam could have been a member as well after the Black Adam movie. So I've only penciled him in, but the rest of them for me are definite members. We'll never know if this would have worked. I'm not arrogant enough to say maybe this would have worked, maybe this wouldn't have worked. They were going to have lots of DCEU content on HBO Max, more than they would have had through the theatrical system. We've already discussed that. For me, for starters, wouldn't have worked because HBO Max, we all haven't got access to HBO Max globally. So how would that have worked anyway? So we're going to get into this article now and see what they have to say, but you need to listen to me here. This is not going to happen. Andy Muschietti will not be directing a Justice League sequel. So if you're angry about this, don't worry about it. If you're excited about this, I'm really, really sorry. Exclusive, the Flash director in talks for Justice League 2. According to our trusted and proven sources, oh, that's hilarious, the Flash director Andy Muschietti is being courted to direct Justice League 2. The DC Extended Universe has been in a period of chaos since, it started existing. The recent merger that created Warner Brothers Discovery put any number of upcoming DCEU projects either in jeopardy or outright cancellation, like the infamously shelved Batgirl movie starring Leslie Grace and Brendan Fraser, or whatever the Wonder Twins project was going to be. According to our trusted and proven sources, one of the remaining sure thing is a Justice League 2 movie. No shit, Sherlock, you don't need sources to know one day there'll be another Justice League movie. I don't think it's a sequel to either Justice League or Zack Snyder's Justice League, but that's just my opinion. And Warner Bros. Discovery wants the Flash director Andy Muschietti to direct it. No, Toby Emmerich and Walter Hamada wanted Andy Muschietti. Andy Muschietti had worked with Walter Hamada over at New Line Cinema with It Chapter 1 and It Chapter 2. That's why he was involved in The Flash in the first place. While Andy Muschietti might not be a household name in the way that Zack Snyder and then allegedly disastrously Joss Whedon is, he has a pretty solid track record so far. After breaking out in a big way with the Jessica Chastain horror film Mama, which was executive produced by Guillermo del Toro, so they're trying to build Andy up here. Andy hasn't got a very big CV. Some of the stuff on it's okay, but I don't think this proves it that he should be like the lead director of the DC Extended Universe. I'm not saying he shouldn't be. We'll talk about the Flash movie after I read this article. In fact, I'll interrupt myself, right? I, as you know, have seen a test screening of the Flash movie, right? And I can tell you, I can report back, this film looks peak. It looks really good. He's done a really good job visually. Let me explain to you the challenges that Andy had here. He had to make a Flash movie that touches other movies, especially Man of Steel. Not only did we go back to Man of Steel, they changed the narrative of that movie within Flashpoint. So he's shot new scenes over the Man of Steel movie. That means you have to go back to that movie, you have to compose actors over that movie, you have to shoot new sequences for that movie, which means everything has to look the same as that original launch movie for the DC Extended Universe. And he did a really, really good job doing that. There's no question, as a director, he pulled this movie off. But he didn't write this movie. He didn't set up the story and the plot for this movie. But his side of the movie is certainly very good. He's a capable director. This conversation isn't about this is not about Andy Muschietti's, capability of being a director. This is about Walter Hamada's vision. Walter Hamada's multiverse strategy, as I boringly keep on informing you every single day, isn't going to happen anymore. But opportunists like Giant Freaking Robot will continue to stir the pot, which is basically a coronation in the genre. He was tapped to direct the two-part Stephen King It adaptations, which jointly made over $1 billion at the box office. Next up, he was brought into the DCEU to direct the Flash film starring Ezra Miller, which seems like a pretty logical next step to directing Justice League 2. Yes, and originally, I repeat, under Walter Hamada, this is exactly what would have happened. However, the Flash film has been beset with a number of issues. Let's say that again. The Flash film has been beset with a number of issues, not least of which is the seemingly endless series of scandals surrounding Ezra Miller. While Justice League 2 does not yet even have an official confirmation, at least after all the fallout with Zack Snyder and his HBO Max cut of Justice League, The Flash is the one movie that Warner Bros. Discovery is seemingly dead set on releasing. Well, they're releasing all their upcoming movies, my friend, because they've made them and they need to release them and they have no choice. It doesn't actually mean any confidence within these movies or the future of the current DC Extended Universe. No matter what, it can be assumed that it, at least in part, because of CEO David Zaslav's determination that all future DCEU releases be grand scale, high budgeted theatrical releases, which sounds exactly like what Justice League 2 will probably be envisioned as. Justice League 2 was originally announced in 2014, years before the first was even released, with Zack Snyder to return as director. Obviously, things went very differently than anyone could have predicted, with Snyder stepping away due to personal tragedies. That's not actually true directly, is it? But anyway, the first Justice League being a critical and a commercial disappointment, and everything just kind of turned weird. Justice League 2 still appears to be in the works for the DCEU, and a stable director like Andy Muschietti might just be what Warner Bros. Discovery is looking for. On the other hand, there we go, Andy Muschietti has a pretty extensive history of being announced as directing a movie, then it not panning out. So basically they're covering themselves now because they know this is not going to happen, including an adaptation of Shadow of the Colossus, The Electric State, the Netflix hit Bird Box, and a live-action version of Attack on Titan. Justice League 2 will undoubtedly need a very consistent director who is able to weather the level of studio needs and fan expectations on such a high-profile movie. If he does decide to sign on to Justice League 2, then hopefully Andy Muschietti will be up for it, or up to it. Basically, this article has no validity. There's nothing to see here. Andy Muschietti will not be directing a Justice League sequel. The only way this happens, that if the Flash movie is so fucking successful and they haven't announced publicly what they're going to do with their 10-year plan and they can change their minds every time a film does badly or really, really well, then maybe he'll do a Justice League sequel. But let me repeat to you again, Andy Muschietti was tapped to direct a Justice League sequel, a sequel to the Flash movie. That was Walter Hamada's plan, bringing Muschietti to reset the DC Extended Universe using the Flash's abilities with the Speed Force in a Flash movie, a Flashpoint movie type thing, and then tap him for a Justice League sequel. They were greenlighting film after film under the Walter Hamada and Toby Emmerich era. This is what they're going to do. This is what they were going to do. But they're not going to do that anymore, to be clear, and that's the end of it. Andy Muschietti is a really good director, but he's Walter Hamada's director. We are getting a president of DC Studios. New plans are coming, new announcements are coming, and we're all just going to have to be patient, aren't we? The Flash's DCEU comic almost spoils the film a year in advance. Almost spoils it. Well, almost spoiling it isn't spoiling it, is it now? Anyway, Ezra Miller's Flash film is delayed to 2023, but the tie-in comic was not spoiling huge plot points nearly a year before the DC film releases. By Joshua Isaac, should I say. Now, this is weird because this doesn't make sense, does it? Can I read this again? But the tie-in comic was not spoiling huge plot points nearly a year before the DCEU film releases. Anyway, the long-awaited Flash film, once intended for release in 2022, was pushed back to 2023, but the official tie-in comic was not, and the issue spoils important plot points nearly a year in advance. The popular speedster hero is a fan favourite, but repeated delays have tested the patience of Flash fans time and time again. The Flash, The Fastest Man Alive, Volume 1 finally reveals crucial details about the film, but perhaps not in the way that Warner Brothers intended. Thanks to the complicated nature of the DCEU's continuity, there exist multiple versions of the Flash and no one is quite sure which Barry Allen is the correct iteration of the character. 2017's Justice League, directed by Joss Whedon, presents a Flash who has never seen battle and has never tested the limits of his powers, while 2021 Zack Snyder's Justice League features a Flash who runs faster than the speed of light and can even travel backwards in time. Right, listen. It's best not to see Justice League and Justice League as two different universes. They're basically both set within the same premise. They're both two different versions of the same fucking thing. Now, they're not the same thing, but they're two different versions of the same film. Simple as that. So it's up to you which one you embrace. And I think most of you are saying, even the people at the studio and even the directors, the DCEU directors, according to Patty Jenkins a couple of years ago, see Zack Snyder's Justice League as DCEU canon. But even that film contradicts some of the other movies. So there's a problem here. When you don't do things properly in life, right, and you try and rush to the top of the franchise league, this is what happens. 2022's Peacemaker complicates the issue and features Flash working alongside the Justice League. Notably, Aquaman, once again set in the DCEU, the tie-in comic takes place after both entries and showcases a more confident Flash than ever before. The Flash, The Fastest Man Alive, Volume 1, written by Kenny Porter with art by Ricardo Lopez Ortiz, shows that shows that Flash still remains close friends with Batman after the events of Justice League. It showcases the destruction of his old suit after fighting the villain Gerda, his decision to train with Batman, and the discovery of the DCEU version of the famous Infinite Mass Punch. Most notably, the comic also debuts Flash's ring and his new suit, important elements that are usually reserved for a film, but instead revealed here. To be honest with you, right, reading about a suit coming out of a fucking ring, which is iconic within the comics anyway, isn't a huge spoiler, isn't a big deal, but I'll allow Screen Rant to hang themselves. Occasionally, a delayed film does not always mean delayed merchandise. The film G.I. Joe Retaliation is a classic example. Delayed from 2012 to 2013, the merchandise arrived far too early to help sell tickets. So it is with The Flash. The film has held numerous release dates, and the comic available in September would have helped promote the initial November the 4th, 2022 release date. Unfortunately, the early release means DCEU fans will learn secrets of the film far earlier than DC and Warner Brothers anticipated. Here's the thing. We already knew about the suit coming out of the fucking ring. Basically, the fucking producers told us and the director told us. It's out there. We know about this already. The comic isn't spoiling anything. It must be noted that the original release of the Flash comic was indeed delayed from April to September, and there's a few volumes which are going to cover from now to the release of the film. That's why they changed the release dates of the comic. Was indeed delayed from April to September, so DC was at least aware of the problem. The Flash is currently slated for a June 23rd, 2023 release date. It is currently unknown if the comic depicts events that occur before the film or during. Before. It's a prequel comic. You understand what prequel? You know what the word means pre, right? You understand that, don't you? Even a Screen Rant journalist should understand that. Only the filmmakers and the writers and me and lots of other people DC Comics know for sure. We all know for sure, actually, mate, apart from you. For all other Flash fans, seeing their hero played by Ezra Miller fight alongside Batman appearing as Ben Affleck in his new suit will be a welcome sight. The fact that this sight is experienced so far in advance of the film's release is unlikely to deter their anticipation. Let me explain something to you. There's a difference between comic book pages and live action. We can read the comics. It's not giving away nothing. I've fucking seen the film. I can tell you it's giving nothing important away. This is a pointless article. And that's the article. That's it. It's a short, pointless article. Basically, the Fastest Man Alive prequel comics, which I haven't read yet, but I'm very excited about getting. I have ordered them, of course. I will get every single one. Maybe we can read them here on the channel. Who knows? But the point being that it doesn't spoil anything, and it's a ridiculous article, and it's a ridiculous thing to say that it almost spoils the film. Well, almost spoiling the film isn't spoiling the film. All it does is say to you, oh, the suit and the ring was basically designed by Batman. We already knew this anyway, officially. They already told us this. This is not a spoiler. This is a tease to excite people. Don't you get it? Now I have a Joker sequel update for you. Now I'm sure you know that they've cast a brand new actor in Jacob Lofland for the Joker sequel, which is officially titled Folie à Deux. And I don't even know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. So, Joker Folie à Deux cast Jacob Lofland in key Arkham Asylum role. Now, as we know, a lot of this movie will be at Arkham Asylum, but who's he playing? Now, I didn't know who he was before, but this is what he looks like. Now, let me ask you a question. Is he too young for a time jump Bruce Wayne? Because I think he could definitely be our new Bruce Wayne, but it depends how many years in the future, or what the time jump is from the first Joker movie to the sequel. If this looks like a 20-year-old, 18-year-old, let's just say 20-year-old young man. So if he was 10 in the first movie, and I'm not sure if he was, he could easily be 20 by now. This could be our Bruce Wayne, excuse my throat. And I think if this is our Joker sequel Bruce Wayne, I think it's pretty awesome. Rising actor Jacob Lofland has nabbed the key role in Joker, Folie à Deux, the sequel to the Oscar-winning and billion-dollar grossing film Joker that starred Joaquin Phoenix and was directed by Todd Phillips, one of the best DC movies ever made. Unfortunately, to this MCU generation, anything that's not moving at a very fast pace is boring. Unfortunately, this is how stories are told. If you don't like watching stories, I don't know why you're watching WBDC. You're better off with the MCU that just is an empty bag with some fresh air. But I don't know why you're watching DC films if you're not looking for dialogue and acting and performances and storytelling. Maybe DC isn't for you. Phoenix and Phillips are back in their respective roles for the new project centered on the infamous Batman villain and are being joined by Lady Gaga, which is huge peak casting. Brendan Gleeson and Catherine Keener all on the call sheet. Plot details are being kept tied in straitjacket, but it is believed to be set in part in Arkham Asylum, the insane asylum frequented by many of Batman's villains in the comics. The project also has a musical component. Now, this is interesting. It has a musical component. Now, we were told this was going to be a complete musical, but maybe it's not a musical. We will find out. Todd Phillips will come out and let us know in time. The thing is with Todd Phillips, when he's making a film, and I think he starts shooting this in November, he doesn't really say much. It's when, during the promotional work for the movie, that Todd Phillips speaks a lot and he gives out a lot of information. Todd's very good like that. So we may have to wait to the marketing of the film to find out if this is actually totally a musical or partially a musical. Additionally, the title references a medical term for an identical or similar mental disorder that affects two or more individuals, normally family members as well. In a key supporting role, Lofland will play an inmate at the asylum who develops a relationship with Arthur Fleck, aka the Joker. Now, this is interesting because he's dressed as the Joker now. So is he going to recognize Arthur? Because he first met him at Wayne Manor in the first film when he was a small boy. So if this is Bruce Wayne, he isn't going to know who this is. So they could develop a friendship. Wouldn't it be compelling if Bruce Wayne has been committed to Arkham Asylum because of witnessing his parents' murder? I think this will be interesting if they do become friends. I'm pretty convinced that this actor is actually playing Bruce Wayne. And I think this is where we're going with this. I think this is going to be great. I'm so excited for this movie. Phillips wrote the script with Joker co-writer Scott Silver. The production is due to begin November with shoots in Los Angeles and New York. Warner Brothers has set an October the 4th, 2024 release, which is not as long as you think it is. So they start next year. So, as I say, very exciting. Lofland made his debut opposite Matthew McConaughey, who is another favourite actor of mine, and Ty Sheridan in the 2013 indie hit Mud. And he was a supporting player in the Maze Runner movie franchise, playing the character Aris. Lofland also played the younger version of the character played by Pierce Brosnan in the Western series The Sun, which ran 2 seasons on AMC. So, yes, I love this actor and I'm very excited, and I think he's playing Bruce Wayne. And if Bruce Wayne has been committed to Arkham Asylum and he's been in there with Arthur Fleck, aka the Joker, and they develop this friendship, this relationship, but later on in the movie, they become enemies. Don't forget, this is an Elseworld. So Bruce Wayne may not become Batman in this world. He may be heading for a very, very different future. So it's very interesting. I think he will become Batman in this universe. And I think ultimately we are looking at a Lex and Clark situation from Smallville here. They will begin to be friends and then they will become enemies. That kind of concept is very, very compelling when done properly. In Smallville, they smashed it. They did it really well. And in Spectre, they absolutely fucked it up. Let's hope the Joker movie pulls this off. And before I leave you today, I thought you'd like to see Tyler Hoechling's Season 3 of Superman and Lois brand new Superman costume. Now let's get this up close because he does look a lot better with this costume. The other one did look really fake. This is an update on that design, but I really do like this costume. So I hope I've given you a really, really good look at it. So I love the boots, I love the bottom half, I love the ripped abs, I like the S-shield, absolutely brilliant. I think the cape is slightly longer or slightly shorter, but I'm loving it. Yes, it's a really good costume. Question, will we ever see the red pants on a Superman live action costume again? Maybe in the next Superman movie. I'm not saying I know anything, but I'm not saying I don't know anything. Now, this is interesting because this post on Twitter gives a comparison to Superman here. Now, don't forget, he's with Lois here, I think, and with his son Jonathan, and he's wearing a very similar costume. So, in all intents and purposes, this is comic book accurate, which is really cool. I love Superman and Lois. I think it's a very intelligent adaptation of the Superman myth. What I don't like is that we've lost the actor Jordan Eslas, who played Jonathan Kent. Apparently he quit due to mental health issues. What I'm very hurt and upset about, and I'm upset for Jordan as well, that none of his fellow actors have supported him. The lad who plays his brother on the show hasn't come out to support him publicly and actually apparently unfollowed him on Instagram. I'm very disappointed by this conduct. But being a part of this industry, none of this conduct ever surprises me. So at first I was going to kind of not watch this show anymore. But how could I not watch a Superman television show that I absolutely admire? And we must support the new actor who's replaced Jordan. It's not his fault. This is a great opportunity for him to play Superboy, if you like. So I'm really excited. Will we get more? Will we get more Superman and Lois after season 3? I hope so, but with Zaslav around, there are no guarantees about the future of DC live action right now. So, Brett Basinger has been talking about the future of Stargirl. I like Stargirl as I do Superman and Lois. These are two of the best Arrowverse DC live action shows ever made, and they're the only two out there because after The Flash is finished, these are going to be the only two that survive. But will they survive? So, Bragg has responded to this question. We're so lucky. So many things are up in the air. I don't know why that makes you feel lucky. Anyway, and we're keeping our fingers crossed, so she doesn't really know. But our showrunner, Geoff Johns, definitely protected the end, where regardless of the future, fans can feel happy and they've got a good ending either way. So it doesn't look good for Stargirl the way she's talking. She's talking about crossing her fingers, which is never a good thing. She's talking about Geoff Johns protecting the ending, focusing on the ending. It looks like the next season of Stargirl will be its last. But what happens to Superman and Lois? We simply don't know. There are no guarantees. This is sad. This is a shame. But we are heading for a new era of DC live action. I wish I knew what that future is, whether it continues and ties in to the existing Arrowverse or DC Extended Universe cinematically. None of us have any idea. Let's hope David Zaslav actually does have an idea, or we're all fucked. This has been Movies TV Mad with Wednesday's show with me, Mick, your host with the most. Just ask your girlfriends and your wives. Please like, share, comment, subscribe. Hit the notification bell so you never miss this beautiful perfection. And I'll see you again in the next video. Whenever we see each other again, it will be very soon. So until then, goodbye, au revoir, auf Wiedersehen.